Hey, Good Friday. Are we live yet? Are we live? Hey, we're live. Good Friday, Henry McClure live. How are you? So, I wrote my state senator, Patrick Schmidt, and I wrote John Ocala. You know, I never hear back from Patrick, but I always hear from John. Thank you, John. Big John. We've come a long way, baby. Oh, man. You know, John was on city council, and, you know, sometimes I think just inherently Republicans and Democrats butt heads just because of stupidity, you know. Like, there's so many Republicans I don't identify with. But anyway, so you guys got to help out. I got stuff to do. I can't change Topeka. I ran against Bobblehead when Trump was on the ballot, did pretty good. I let Spencer Duncan kick my ass all over Topeka, just advertising only on Facebook, trying to do the best I can. You know, whatever. I didn't, look how I got outspent. And I was all for Spencer and wanted to be a nice guy until he told me I didn't have standing. And that's kind of like, are you guys, do you understand what's going on with MTAA? So let's put it this way. MTAA gets caught manipulating the leases. And to me, it's criminal because in the real estate business, if the landlord manipulates the lease to a tenant, he's breaking the law. And if it were a real estate company, you would make a complaint and they'd lose their license. And what do they have any business being in the property management business anyway? If Doug Bassett were the property manager or Mike Morris, at least I would go to them and get treated fairly because they have to treat me fairly due to state law. So, MTAA manipulates a lease. This goes back to 2016. And the tenant says, wait a minute, what happened to all my options? There's value in long-term leases. Because that way you can put money into the space and you can get a subtenant. And the landlord, the whole thing is set up that the landlord knows that that's what you're doing. You know, I think the first lease they had in that space was a lease from the state of Kansas, Medicaid or something like that. So, but whatever. So they get caught, MTA, hands in the cookie jar, crooked. So then MTA sues the tenant, terminates the lease, and the guy's a rent-paying tenant. And he's going, hey, you altered the lease. You're crooks. So then MTA doesn't want videos like this out there going, so they make a settlement offer. The tenant agrees to it. So they sue. Okay. Our guys make the defense. Well, the good guys, the tenant, during the deposition, the forensic guy for the MTAA says, wow, this lease has been altered. So then, in infinite wisdom of the MTAA, they decide to settle. So they make a settlement, and then they don't pay. And they drug this thing out, and you, the taxpayers, are paying the legal fees for the MTA's stupid, crooked, wrong decisions, and now you're paying for the legal fees for the guy just trying to defend himself. And Ledbetter said, "Oh, they're going to appeal it." So wait a minute. How do you appeal? Help me out. Because and think about all these lawyers, like Kevin Cook. He's a lawyer. And then Rich Eckert, he's a lawyer. You know, Rich Eckert is basically the 4th county commissioner. And they appoint people to the MTAA. And then let's talk about Spencer. You know, now Tuck Duncan, his personal advisor, they're all aware of this. Why doesn't a lawyer ever lose his license? Well, you know, wait a minute. You're enabling, hey, Kevin Cook, you're enabling the MTAA to be crooks. So, birds of a feather flock together. And Kevin, I hope somebody runs against you and throws your ass so far out of the county. But look, it's just like, Kevin, hey, what about Lawrence Bay and whatever? Where is the accountability? I think if Eric Johnson could lose some more money, he could actually qualify to take Braxton's space. You know, Braxton is like the award winner right now, around $14 million. But look at the budget. Eric Johnson, I think he is a great candidate to become like a deputy city manager. In fact, Avery, you better watch out. And then our city manager, he's on the board of directors at Go Topeka. You tell me the school boards are the ones raising all the property taxes up. The property tax, there was a guy yesterday that spoke at the county commission very eloquently, who I think is running for office. I think in Bills. He's talking about like 35% increase in his property taxes. And where in the hell did the city get better? You got Molly, Howie, and Stephanie just giving away Go Topeka money to the charities. Then we got the AT&T building. When is it all going to add up? And what I'm doing is I'm getting it out of my system. You know, when I was raising Bianca, I didn't want her to be this little whiny brat that cried when she lost her balloon. So we'd go to like the restaurants that give you a balloon, and we'd get outside, and the game would be to let it go. And that's what I'm going to do with all this stuff with Topeka. I'm going to put it in a balloon and let it go. But you guys are going to have to start picking up the football. In fact, there's 4 people in the House that didn't vote for Senate Bill 104 for the Citizens Commission. So I'm going to ask them to sponsor a bill. John Akala, my representative, said he'd co-sponsor it with these people. But we got to take our government back. So they got $2.7 million set aside to pay off something that was agreed to be paid off and settled. And they also, too, about the settlement, Mr. Long-Term Lease, he doesn't really care right now. He's earning 8%. He's getting 8% on the judgment. He ain't missing any meals today. He can pay the bills. But somebody else has got to pick up the football, because this balloon is going up. Good luck, Topeka. But, hey, have a good Friday. I love you all. Easter's a whole new day.